Alright, what's up y'all, LakerFan here. As you can see by the title of today's video, here to rank every attribute in tiers on NBA 2K26 and decide which is the best, which is the worst. So, I hope y'all enjoy the video. If you do, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to notice, all the good stuff, and like always, try this one to 1,000 likes. As you can see, we have this listed in the same way that you'd see it in the builder, finishing, the shooting, playmaking, defense, rebounding, and then the physicals as well, all color-coded in that assortment of just to let you understand if you wanted to view what is the best finishing attribute, if you want to just look at all the blue ones by the time the video is over. So we're going to reveal these from F tier all the way up to S tier and save the top for the last, the bottom for first. So let's get straight into the video. Hope y'all enjoy. Okay, I know I said I'd start the video. I promise this will only take like 30 seconds. I just wanted to give you guys some context as to what I kind of think of as far as the things that hold weight in these rankings. And I've never really done this in the past. So I just want to give you guys some context as far as what might hold, the weight on these rankings. So overall power of the rating itself. How useful truly is the rating and how much can you make that really felt by the other team just off the fact that you have it. Badges tied to the attributes as well. A split of top end ratings and necessity for the middle ground, low ground, whatever the case you want to say. An example of this that I have is, for instance, standing dunk at 40 is extremely valuable and extremely good and powerful. However, the top end of it isn't the most crazy thing I've ever seen. It's just like solid to have essentially. So a lot of that stuff will still get factored in, not to mention how many people on the court need the rating. A good example of this I would have is offensive rebounding compared to defensive rebounding. Defensive rebounding, you need at least probably 2, if not 3, I would say, people on the court that have high defensive rebound. On the offensive rebound, you could get away with not having it at all on the court, and maybe, in a 5v5 setting, at least just 1, simply put. Anything past that might be a little bit of a surplus, essentially. So anyway, that is my context as far as what's going to be weighted in terms of this attribute value list that we have right here. Let's get back to the tier list now. All right, so to start us off, we have a very hot topic on the YouTube and Twitter these days. As you can see, strength coming into the E tier, and then close shot also joining it down here as well. I think these are the 2 worst attributes in the game, if you ask me. They don't really impose a lot of power in the game at all, and the only thing you could really make the case for strength being had for is a screen setting big man. Truly just a 5 in comp pro-am. That's all I would really say. You've seen maybe videos from Tonic so far. I've given my opinion on stuff like this as well. I truly don't think strength holds any value. If anything, it's really just a brick wall badge. Now, to be fair, I did tell y'all in the prefacing of what was going to hold the weight on the power of these attributes and where I'd rank them, that badges were also going to matter as far as what they're affiliated with. So with strength comes things like brick wall. To be fair though, I think that might be one of the only really useful badges that are affiliated to strength in the game. Now, there are things like strong handles, which for instance, if you utilize that in your game and really are the type of guy that wants to activate that type of a badge consistently and that's in your game, it might be useful to you. I don't think it's a very powerful thing in the game at the end of the day. I don't think a lot of people do it, and it's not super competent at all in the first place, if you ask me, and I think it's bad practice to be doing a lot of dribble moves right into people's faces. That's the only way you activate the badge. Anyway, there's things like obviously physical finisher, not exactly a super comp thing, because you will see in this video as well, I have driving layup as a little bit of an undervalued attribute as well. Long story short, I just don't think strength holds a lot of value, especially the attribute itself. You can still get box outs, you can still play on-ball defense at an elite rate without it, and again, I really do think only one player on the court at max needs to have strength on their build, and it's truly just a screen setting 5. If you have a 5-out offense, I don't even think you need strength at all on any of them, and you've seen it in gameplays that I've shown as well. So listen, I know I probably spent a lot of time on this strength attribute, but it's because I've been catching a little bit of heat for it, obviously in the comments, or also, other videos and stuff that people have been putting out in response to my opinions on strength. And I'm here to stand on it that I truly do think, as long as you're not a screen setting big man, that you really don't need strength at all. And that's just in comp settings as well. And really for the casuals, I think you get away with stuff like that also. So anyway, for close shot, not exactly a super competent style again, if you ask me. I think that they're very unreliable. I think it's already hard in general that you have to time things like this at an elite level, even on opens for that matter. I'm sure you guys have seen it too. People smoking wide open close shots, wide open driving lays, and you could even have a high rating on something like this. The contests get kind of ridiculous on the driving lays and close shots now in this game. I don't know when this changed. I don't know if it was the Season 2 patch. I don't know what's up with that, but truly, the floaters, the driving lays, the close shots, they do seem pretty hard to hit, and I don't think it's a reliable play style in the first place. And what I also did say is that I want to reference a quote-unquote best example to need the rating in each when discussing, like, for example, strength. Best use case is on a screen setting 5 in Pro-Am. The best use case I can think of for close shot is probably 2v2, 5v5 post score, but like post scores are so cooked in this game, they don't really exist at an elite level anymore, if you ask me. You used to see on once in a blue moon a post scorer that would really dominate a game, truly. But in this game, I've never seen a single one. I've been waiting to play one, for that matter, because I had a video in 24 that kind of banged of playing like my first real post scorer, and same with 25. I have not played a real post scorer in 26, and I think it might just be because the 3 hunting in this game is so dominant, and to get wide open dunks and wide open, finishes in general off of that 3 hunting kind of threat that exists, if you get what I'm saying, it leads to easy 2-point baskets. And to be someone that's completely based on getting contested twos to go in, like close shot, for instance, I think it's just a very undervalued thing in the game, and I don't see a whole lot of use with it, and same goes for the badges affiliated with it as well. So we have close shot just as low as strength. I put them in the E tier though, because I do still obviously see some value for both of them, and I don't think they're completely useless attributes like you would see in an F tier. So I don't think anything deserves to be in the F tier, simply put. All right, moving along to the D tier, you can see we have post control and vertical. Once again, another finishing stat and then another physical stat as well coming in at the D tier, just like the E tier as well. So let's start with vert. I think this is a very easy one to explain. This is one that completely is just tied to the badges that are affiliated with it and the animations that come with it as well. It's obviously, maybe it's not obvious, but let me explain to you guys. I am someone that wishes vertical made a little bit more of an impact, and I thought maybe at the beginning of the year that it did because of the way that I was rebounding. I might just be a naturally good rebounder in general, and not to mention when you pair that with speed and the running starts that you get on boards, it makes you look like a much better rebounder, and that might come naturally with you having more vertical and speed together. What I'm trying to pretty much say is you might be placebo believing in vertical helping you on rebounds, because those running start boards are extremely helpful in terms of getting crazy leaping ability, and I don't think vertical is necessary when it comes to that type of discussion. I've seen the builds in action. I've seen ones with high, ones with low. I myself personally have high vertical on all my builds, 80 plus on all of them, because I affiliate that with the contact dunks and the posterizer and stuff that gets tied with it. Posterizer doesn't actually matter too much, but I don't know, it's still something you could get. And I naturally just end up with like 92 on my builds for side clutches, stuff like that, because I like the dunk attribute. Anyway, point being, we'll talk about poster in another video, maybe where we're talking about the badges in tiers and stuff. Anyway, with vertical though, again, not really the attribute itself applying to hardly anything at all in the game. Maybe applies to blocks. I don't even know though, to be fair. I've seen builds out here with like 60 vert, like Bonnie's build from a couple of months ago that also had a high block rating, and it was pretty wild. The type of jump contests he would get, the block animations, stuff like that, the rebounds he could still get. I don't think vertical matters as an attribute, hardly at all. It is, however, somewhat important because it's tied into, like I said, badges like High Flying Denier, for instance, or the contact dunk animations in general, like getting LeBron, and you need 64, for instance. Just off the top of my head, a lot of different stuff, like, for instance, contacts being 75, 80, etc., 85, whatever the case may be. So, vertical still belongs somewhere above these two attributes, if you ask me, but not exactly useful other than just the things it's affiliated to. Post control, once again, the same thing we were just talking about with close shot. You do not see a lot of true blue post scorers. We already kind of just referenced that a whole lot, so no real reason to just, circle the wagons on that again and talk about it all over again. I will say, though, I still think it's more useful than close shot off the fact that it is intimidating to be going at someone that has the post control rating, and if you don't have the levels of post move lockdown, like, lack of strength would lead to, you may actually end up having an issue guarding people like this. The thing is, it doesn't exist in the game a lot, so that's why lacking that strength doesn't hurt a whole lot, to be fair. Now, again, I think that there's a place in this game for post scores. I think it absolutely could be a problem to be like, defending, if you ask me, if more people did it. It's just that it's a little bit more complicated. It has to be very ball centric. The ball has to stay in that one person's hands and the whole team has to move off him. It's hard to involve. However, it is powerful in the right hands and against the right defender that lacks the ability to guard it. But I still think it belongs pretty low. It's a very unutilized attribute, and, it's for a reason. You don't see a whole lot of people doing it. Okay, so next up in the C tier, you can see we have 4 different attributes right here. Our first shooting and our first defense one, and then 2 more finishing as well. We have standing dunk with an asterisk. I'll explain this in a second. And same with free throw with the asterisk as well. Driving lay, interior defense make up our C tier. So let's start with the ones that have a little bit of, question mark to them a little bit. Free throw, obviously, if you don't play fives at all, worst attribute in the game. I mean, like if you play only 1s, 2s, 3s, etc., this is the worst attribute. You don't ever need it on your build, simply put. You could argue the same with pass hack on 1s as well, but obviously, you know, that's a very rare case. This is more generalized for like a lot of park players and stuff, would never need free throw. However, I still think it's a good attribute to have for 5s, especially in, you know, a lot of situations where you might not think you need to be the guy that has it, or if you are in a very specific case that does need to have it, like for instance point guards, when the game is winding down, you need to be able to hit your free throws. Someone on the court needs to have it in order to be like the tech shooter free throw, where like if someone gets a defensive 3-second, etc., transition take fouls. It's a lot of points that can add up, and it's really good takeover for you as well, to just be able to simply get free points, you know, and to miss out on free points really sucks sometimes. So anyway, I still think it belongs to C tier. It's extremely cheap. I should have mentioned that maybe the cost of attributes matters, but it's hard to really distinguish between all builds. Free throw is a one-off where it's very cheap for every build. So simply put, I think it belongs to C tier. I think it's a really decent attribute when you talk 5s, so I think it belongs here. For standing dunk, I do think this is one that, like I was prefacing in the beginning of the video, I think it's a lot easier to say this is valuable for people along the lines of like very low ratings, like 40 to 45, etc. I think going along the lines of 81 to, I've been talking about on stream, 83, 84-ish seems to be really good for meter dunking. I'm not super comfortable with 81 when it comes to my meter dunks. With me on my new builds, I love the idea of that 83, 84, maybe even 85-ish range, something like that. That makes it really meter dunk capable, the same way of you having driving dunks. If you have them both, you don't have to worry about if it's a standing or a driving. Whereas if you had like a 40 standing dunk and a 93 driving dunk, if you come to a stop below the hoop and you get a standing meter dunk, that is going to be unmakeable. However, you would still be able to initiate it. Obviously, if you're moving, then the driving dunk would pop up. So that's where, for it to be a more respectable rating, is really helpful. But the high end of standing dunk, I don't think is super different. I don't know. I mean, the meter still gets shrunk by any defender that's in good guarding position. You are not simply dominant and overpowered by having a 99 standing dunk. You know, I think that might be one of the most useless 99 attributes in the game, to be honest. I think it probably caps out at about 90 in terms of its value. I would think the sweet spot is more along the lines of like 85. Now, this is not a best value attribute video. We'll probably do that soon again as well. I just want to simply talk the power of the ratings, and again, the low end and the middle end of this definitely make up for like the high end not being super valuable, but the low end, middle end can really be super valuable to have on any build. And just the fact that you can pop off a standing dunk animation with 40 is crazy. It's really good value. So still think it belongs in the C tier. I think it's the best C tier, by the way. I think this is more powerful than any of these other 3 that we have in the list. Just keep that in mind. I don't really rank them from top to bottom in the list, though. It's just that they happen to be grouped in the same tier. And I'll explain type of things like that to you guys. So anyway, moving along. We have interior defense. Now, this right here, it's really weird to talk about, because if you listen to anything we were just talking about, the only thing interior defense counters is close shot, driving lay, and standing dunk. And a little bit of driving dunk too, but you don't really need it as much. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, you don't even really need interior defense to be able to counter the standing dunks and driving dunks, if it's meter dunks, to be fair. And as far as stopping the driving lays and close shots, they're not very powerful in the game. So why is interior defense so high? I think simply put, if you don't have it at all, I think you're paper. You're just kind of Swiss cheese down there. And if you have around 60 to 70, it truly does just play a huge different factor in terms of being able to stop people on the interior, if you ask me. So, but again, you could talk what you want about stopping the meter dunks and stuff between the standing and driving. I've seen this played out plenty of times, whether I test it in a like lab setting where it's me versus like, you know, someone standing underneath the hoop intentionally, or if I've seen it just in my gameplay as well of small guards. In Pro-Am specifically, you can look at the box scores after and see exactly what people had for their attributes, and so many times I've seen 25 interior D, 25 block from a guard that was underneath the basket and just happened to be standing there and shrunk the meter with no paint patrol or anything like that. So I will say that you can get away with not having the attribute, but it is still very helpful for stopping driving lays and close shots, which can still exist, obviously, you know. As far as what it does to the meter dunks, I'm not going to talk on that too much. I already did kind of yap already a little bit about it. But yeah, you don't need it necessarily a whole lot to be able to stop it. I don't think you need interior D at a high level. I just think to simply have it around like 60 to 70 is a really good threshold. Anything that's like in excess to that would be more so just to get Paint Patroller at a higher level, like Legend and like Hoff and stuff like that. But anyway, moving along to driving layup. We already talked about this a decent bit between the couple of attributes that were affiliated with it, like interior D and close shot. To kind of sum this up, I'm a little bit disappointed in driving lays. At the beginning of the year, the floaters looked really good. The animations are really good. I also didn't go into the year anticipating that it'd be such a 3-hunt game, you know. Granted, the make rate was looking really ridiculous too, so it's fair to say that you could have seen something like that coming. But they even feel like they kind of ghost nerfed floaters. Let me know what you guys think of that as well. I don't feel like floaters really ever ended up being quite as valuable after Season 2, and I ended up just taking driving lay off my build pretty much entirely. I just am really more so committed to the driving dunks and the three-pointers, and it's unfortunate. I really do have a love for like the versatility and the viability of things like mid-range and driving lay and floaters being added to the game. It's what made 2K24 fun to me, was like the floaters being elite, really, really hard to guard, and truly something you had to think about when people were attacking you on offense. But in this game, I don't feel like that's the same case. However, it's still decent, still hard to guard if you have low interior defense, and these types of driving lay kind of can still bail you out as well. So I still do think it belongs in the C tier. I think it's better than things like post control vertical. It applies to more people's games as well. I've still seen people make some use out of the floaters, but it's just hard to really see the value in it when, again, the power of the dunk and three-pointer is so high, and even mid-range as well is still very useful in terms of other ways to score from 3 different levels of the floor, whether it's the dunks, the mid-range, or the three. So anyway, that's our C tier right there. Let's move along to B now. All right, so moving along into the B tier, we have a couple of defense, playmaking, shooting, and our first rebounding one as well. So, and for that matter, our first playmaking attributes are in the B tier as well. So, perimeter, block, pass accuracy, ball handle, offensive rebounding, and mid-range. I want to start us off on the O board. I know it's a little bit odd to like start on the right side rather than the left, but what I do want to mention, and why I really do want to mention the lack of defensive rebound being shown so far, is once again, like I said earlier in the video in the intro, offensive rebound is an attribute where really only one person on the court at most needs to have it. It's kind of in the same kind of line of strength where you could live without anybody on the court having offensive rebound at all. If you run a 5-out offense and you ran more of a point guard style, it would not debilitate your team to have 0 offensive rebounding. Granted, the efficiency needs to be very good then, and the shot selection needs to be very good as well, but you could live without an offensive rebounder. You cannot play this game without a defensive rebounder. That is so obvious, so those are where the two attributes really differentiate, in my opinion, in terms of which one would be higher on the list. Now, I will say, the dominance of a really high elite offensive rebounder on the court can very much so apply, like, to the game sense. I mean, these guys can hawk and really control a game, get multiple different possessions off those offensive rebounds. If multiple people crash, you can have easy kick out threes. I've seen it already a lot in the game, right? There will be 7-foot block sitters, dudes that like, you know, go down on the slip really early, sit down in the paint consistently, and really make their presence known. I 100% acknowledge that that's powerful, and it's why it's still at least B tier. Could be higher, but again, I don't think you need this on multiple different people on the court as opposed to the defensive rebound does needed. It is needed, I should say. Anyway, let's move along. Let's start back over on the left. I just wanted to really hit that because it really stands out as like lacking D-board early, and we're wondering why offensive versus defensive so far. Anyway, for perimeter, this is going to be a lot based on, you know, getting on-ball bumps. It can be very useful. It's really your main key to playing defense in this game, if you ask me. You could argue that the capability of turning the ball over, like steal, for instance, is more, and that's why it's not on the list yet. And same with agility being really important in terms of like getting bumpy. But to have the on-ball menace, to have the challenger, to have the, you know, shot contesting capabilities of this with the perimeter defense rating is still very important. It's not as important, I would argue, as the things you'll see in A and S tier though. Same goes for block. This is still very good at getting you contests, like getting jump contests, while also still being very rangy off ball. I've seen it multiple different times, whether it's being as a pick and roller or a driver myself, or, you know, against other people as well. When you have an elite block build on the court, it can really, for a lack of a better word, create a lot of aura in that area when you have someone on the corner defense or on the back end, like, you know, guarding the center essentially. It's really threatening when someone has an elite level of block rating, and to simply just have it at all is also extremely important. So you could argue this is like something that should be even higher. Like, for instance, I was actually watching Double H's Road to 99, and I saw that he upgraded block almost before any other thing on his build. He had three-pointer and block, and honestly, if you think about it, that probably is an attribute I would love to put to at least a 60 to 70 range or something like that before anything else on the build, because to not be able to protect the paint at all and to not be able to jump contest anything at all in this game is debilitating. And to not have the block rating at all would be a terrible, terrible mistake on the build. So you could definitely argue it higher if you would like to. I put it in B simply because I think that like elite levels of it probably don't really feel as powerful as a lot of these other ones. Driving dunk's a little bit of a one-off, to be fair, but every other thing on the list right here at an elite level is felt 100%. But Block would probably be like a stretch if you ask me to put in the A tier. Pass accuracy, we have in the B tier. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be questionable over this because I've vouched multiple times about builds being able to get away with having 25 pass ac on the court, or even 30 something as well, if that's what you happen to, blend into instead. Point is, those are for role player builds, builds that are just meant to play in the corner. They touch the ball about 7 times a game, and out of those 7 times a game that they touch the ball, they shoot it probably 5, or go drive and dunk themselves 1. Very rarely will a build that just sits in the corner, that's rarely getting the ball anyway, have to even be in a situation where they pass the ball back. And even if they do, they can be in a very conservative style. And as long as you limit yourself, you do not have to throw ridiculous outlets and stuff like that. Now, I will say, I want to speak on the high end of pass accuracy as well, though. This is an elite thing that can change the game. I have played with 90, 93, 94, 98, 99. I've played with all types of stuff, even like the 82 range and stuff as well. Let me tell you from firsthand experience, you can change the game a lot as a high pass accuracy player, whether it's the catches your teammates get off the passes and being able to shoot, whether it's for the zip you put on it in general to be able to throw needles of like something that maybe wouldn't be there otherwise if you had a slower pass. It can be important. It's not a deal breaker and it's not a complete game changer, but it's a beautiful accessory piece to have on your build if you are someone that initiates the offense and constantly has the ball in your hands. That is me. It's not something that everybody needs. I think when you talk the kind of around the court view of like if you looked at your guard, shooting guard, lock, power forward, and center, what's the average pass accuracy between them all? I would bet that it's somewhere around the 80s. I bet your locks have something like 70. I bet your shooting guard has 71 or 76. I bet your point guard has 82 plus, and I bet your center has 87 plus. Anything else, it's probably sitting in that 71 range because that's what you can get away with really capably. And for some specific players that are very role player based, or especially park builds, 30 pass ac, 25 pass ac might be able to get away with. So anyway, the point is, I think it's a B tier attribute. I think it can be very useful at the high levels, and I think you still get away with it at a low level. So whether that devalues it or not, in your opinion, feel free to weigh in on that as well. Anyway, moving along, we have ball handle. Now, let me tell you from firsthand experience of our first couple of comp pro-am matchups of like being in the chats and stuff. We'll get to that content pretty soon as well, by the way. But against people that have an elite level of ball handle and the kind of ankle assassin stuns that you can get with that, not to mention just how fast they combo with it and just in general how bursty they are with stuff like that as well, it can be very tough to go at. Now, I still think the real value in ball handle is more than just the attribute itself. It's a lot like driving lay, or for instance, even vertical for that matter, that a lot of the value in this attribute comes with the animations that it unlocks, obviously, right? It's not so much about the badges. It's not really about like the whole, I don't know, just the attribute doing a lot of things itself. It's a weird conversation though, because you need a high rating to be able to do certain things, especially even certain dribble animations that are even just unlocked, not by animations that you can equip, but more so that you need to have a certain rating to be able to do, like in the 85 range to be able to do the not quick stops, but to be able to do the LT cancel. Hypothetically, it's more so actually flicking up on your stick. Anyway, point is, ball handle, very valuable attribute even still. Even in the 70 range, 75 range, you can unlock a lot of good SIGs like the pro, the Jimmy escape, stuff like that, pro behind the back, pro step back, all types of stuff that's really valuable. And then all the way up to the elite levels of like 85, 86-ish. Now, I don't really know if I see the value in like 95 plus, if you ask me, other than getting stuns and ankle breakers and stuff like that. There are some SIGs that smaller guards would definitely love to have with something like that, so I can't really hate on it entirely. That Brunson step back that dudes were doing in that gameplay that we did of the dunks versus threes video recently, that was a killer. And I gotta say, that is something that you'd obviously want a higher ball handle for. Actually, I'm not positive on that, so maybe I'd have to double check that to be fair. But anyway, my point is that I think you can live in that 85, 86 range really easy and really capably, but anything lower, still good value. Anything higher, more for like chaining and like getting better handles for days and stuff like that, if you ask me. Anyway, moving along. Mid-range. You could argue mid-range maybe should have been A tier, especially depending on what court you're talking. If you're talking 2v2, this is an S tier rating, simply put. If you're talking threes, it's like more of a C tier, if you ask me. It's not really important at all. And then for Pro-Am, however, I think it sits right in that B to A range. I mean, like, this is where the list is a little bit hard to talk about, is like the court settings and stuff of like, where is the attribute more useful for? Mid-range is one that's very dependent on the court you're talking. Again, for twos, super important. This is literally the whole meta of the 2v2 environment itself, is mid-range fading and offensive rebounding. These two together are sitting in that S tier, as if you could only have one attribute, it would be these two at the 1 and then at the 2, simply put. Everywhere else, it's a little bit more dependent on the style of team you're running and stuff like that. So, especially also the style of player you are. So, if you're someone like Tonic, who's very built in that mid-range game and you like to be able to fade and stuff like that, obviously you can't fade from 3 very capably in the game anymore. So, to do it from the mid-range and the hop jumpers and like, the spin shots and stuff like that and the mid-range fades, that's where you'd eventually, be able to make your money on fading and stuff and doing shot creator-esque things. So, definitely needs to be considered a good attribute, and I think B tier is still very respectable. None of these attributes are bad by any means. These are all very, very good ones. C tier and below is like, I could live with like this not being on the court, kinda, depends. Like I said, lower levels kind of important, like you need the 60, 70, 60 or 70 or 40 for that matter, and like everything else then below that, you can live without it at like, pretty low levels for that matter. Anyway, moving along though, into the A tier. Alright, so as you can see, we have steal, defensive rebound, driving dunk with an asterisk right here that we'll get to in a sec, speed with ball, and agility. So like always, let's start with the kind of question marks on this one. Driving dunk, I do not think is very valuable at the extreme levels in this game. I don't think anything past 93 is necessary. You could even argue 92, just because like I said, I'm a big believer in side clutches being the best dunk in the game, and you do need a 92 dunk rating to be able to get so. I do think though, like posterizer is nice to get at 93 because it's right there and like so accessible. It's just that, what's the point? The posterizer doesn't work right now. I mean, Toots did a test on it. I've been very skeptical of that myself. I stopped running this in my +1, +2, slots and stuff. Didn't see any difference. Same with when I was like loading up a brand new build and it was only at silver. And I was like, what's the difference between silver and legend right now? I don't freaking know. I thought that even from day 1 of the game for that matter. I don't know. So anyway, it's very useful attribute though. Like if we're talking the difference of having 0 of it versus like 65, 75, something like that is huge. And then to be able to meter dunk in that 85 to 87 range is extremely big deal as well. Now you can still meter dunk with 80. It's not by far like as makeable though if we're talking like the difference between 87 and 80. 87 is a huge value rating to hit. I mean, we're talking contact dunk animations, we're talking meter dunk makeability capability, and that is a big difference. But that's why it's so valuable in those types of range, as a cutter, as a pick and roller, as an ISO point guard, whatever the case may be of how you apply your driving dunks to a team. It is a huge deal to be able to do stuff like this. So in previous years, when I was running my slasher style build, I would normally just be like, I don't care what kind of dunks around me. We're going to have dudes spotting up from 3. They don't even cut. They just stand still, shoot the ball, or maybe dunk when they're wide open. In this game, though, meter dunking, a huge deal. And I really do think that being in that high range of dunk is important, but not in the elite range, simply put. So, really big fan of driving dunk, but still questionable in terms of the elite rating. Steal. Difference maker in the game, 100%. I mean, off ball, kind of on ball, not quite as much, but still the bump steals can be very threatening as well. But off ball, especially. Interceptor, oh my gosh, huge. Like, you could argue this is a top 3 lane game in terms of like its power. I think like probably 22, for instance, would have been really elite. 23 was kind of good too. I don't really remember entirely, like, to draw back to those types of games, like it's the back of my hand or anything like that. But long story short, this is definitely one of the top steal games as far as the interceptions. Now, on-ball steal is absolutely terrible. I mean, we're talking plucks don't even exist. Literally, if you've seen more than, 2 all year, good luck to you. But anyway, the point is that this is still a very good attribute, very valuable, and obviously you still want it on your builds. And it can really be a threat to have everywhere on the court. Like, if you have a team that has 5 people with 91 steal, or I should say more so like 85, let's say, that is a nasty situation to have on the court where all 5 people can lane. It's tough to play against. So, simply put, that's how I feel about that. And same kind of applies to defensive rebound. People won't show it as much love because it's such an offensive game and it's rare to see misses, in comparison to what you'd see in previous years. And especially in Rec Center, for instance, as well. The sliders are kind of fluky in there where shots go in at a ridiculous rate. So defensive rebounding gets a little bit devalued. But when people do miss shots, you need to be able to secure them, simply put. And the beauty in defensive rebound and what I've created my whole team kind of in the image of as well is that having 3, maybe even 4, maybe even 5 people on the court that can defensive rebound can really dominate the board count, like, and stop any extra possessions from happening on the other side, as well as lead to fast break easy points for you, because you're able to confidently rely in your teammates to get those types of defensive rebound, because you know you have 3 elite crashers coming off corner, and back end, and then you as the guards can just run. You can just fly on the break, and it leads to easy 3-pointers when paired with high pass act, high D board. So to have one guy that does that is asking a lot. And also, let me talk to you real quick about something like this, because I feel very passionately about this, but I don't always get the opportunities to yap about stuff like this. So the thing with that defensive rebound is, if you are someone that has 99 defensive rebound, you are the team's board man. You get paid for boards, right? That's literally your thing. What do you do when they throw the ball to your man and he shoots the ball 20 times a game though? What if they just chuck that pass over to your head and you simply have to contest that every single time? Who else on your team is getting the rebound? Do you have elite crashers that can actually deal with stuff like that at that point, is my question to you. So if you do have only one guy on the court that can be trusted for the boards, I think that's a liability, if you ask me. That's someone that could get targeted on shots just because you are the only guy that can grab the boards. So I think to have multiple people on the court that can do so is extremely important. Again, it's the contradiction to the why I think the offensive rebound is lower rated, if you ask me. So anyway, that's kind of my yap on that. I think somewhere in the 80 range is extremely important to have on a lot of people that want to be considered a rebound crasher, right? That's just kind of my take on that. So anyway, moving along, speed with ball. This is huge. 75, like we're talking, lightning launch silver, +1 to gold, and then blah, 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 have like Levine dribble style. Huge difference. 86 speed with ball, really nice to have. Takeovers that buff your speed with ball. Elite as well. The long story short is speed with ball is extremely important in this game, and it's what really creates offense in general. Now, to be fair, I still do think, as you can see, speed has not been shown yet, and 3-pointer has not been shown yet. This is also how you create offense in this game. Threes, off-ball movement, being fast. Simply put, dexing around. This is the only other way to really create offense, though, other than that, which, in my opinion, is to dribble the ball and dribble the ball fast and get open and create defenders moving around so that you can maybe pass them the ball for the threes as well. Anyway, and same goes for like passing for dunks as well. But same thing applies. You need to create a little bit of a threat, and speed with ball can absolutely do that by creating more of a threat by getting open into the three. Then defender comes up to you, which leads to open dunk for your teammate. Anyway, point is, speed with ball, extremely important, really valuable, elite attribute. At the highest level is extremely threatening for that matter as well, whether it's ISO or pick and roll. Agility, really big deal defensively. Same thing we were just talking about. I don't know if this is something you need to have multiple people on the court have at a high level though. I think like 2 could be nice if we're talking 5s. For 3s, maybe 2 once again, just because you have to really defend the 3-point line. So to be able to just keep up like in a very fast way, side to side, and get bumpy, get cutoffs and stuff like that can be very helpful, really important. So agility is definitely one of the top tier attributes in terms of the defensive capabilities. You could argue maybe even the best for that matter, that it's more important than steal. I think that's more for an on-ball lock though. Steal is something that I'd want on my whole team more widespread around that 85 range. Agility is something that I'd want on my on-ball defender at an elite level. Unless you're speaking in terms of like the 6'8 to 6'9 switchables, where yes, you're working with like an 80 to 85 range or something like that, but you would be able to switch on screens a whole lot more capably, in which case a more mediocre level of agility can get away with, if you ask me. So anyway, into our S tier attributes, we have 3-pointer and speed. I think this is, easily obviously known without even being said. These have been the top 2 attributes in the game for probably 10 plus years now at this point in 2K. To be fast is important on offense and defense. Agility is not important on offense. It's only important on defense. As for 3-pointer, it's literally just the most important attribute in the game every year. If we're talking spacing reasons of like having even respectable attributes into the 78 range as like a big man or like the worst shooter on the court. And then if we're talking like the threat of just a 99 being on the court in general of what that does to a team, it's a huge deal. The gravity that kind of creates, as I've talked about in my pro-am videos as well, of like if I have teammates with deep bomber and like 99 3-pointer sitting around on the hashes, either it creates openings of spacing or it creates openings of threat when that player is moving around, so much to the point where it might even just leave other people open because so many people are focused on stopping the threes. So again, whether you're talking spacing or the threat of just simply getting 3-pointers off, it can be a huge deal, and for everybody on the court to be able to have shooting capability is extremely important. It hurts me a little bit, right, because I've been Mr. Pure Inside for years now, but in this game, there's no excuse for being, someone that isn't inside. It's like the easiest shooting 2K in all history, if we're being completely honest, and I don't know, I just think, simply put, to lack the spacing in a game like this, especially where cap breakers can take you all the way from 25 3-pointer to 75, 78, something like that, there's no excuse at all for having a pure inside build in this game. It's unfortunate, unless you truly just want to be different and you feel like you're just doing it just because you want to be different. That's okay, I suppose, but yeah, it's the least inside big man game I've ever seen in 2K, simply put. If you even are someone that plays like an inside but just has a 3-point capable rating, like I would, for instance, that's the major key. To just be able to pop in general at all is important. And same goes for especially in rec, where like the lack of spacing can be awful for that matter. So anyway, to hit on speed one more time though, because I feel like we didn't talk about it enough, I do think though, like there's more threat to this than just the necessities of truly just being fast on offense and defense at the same time. To get out on the breaks, important. To be able to pick and roll fast, important. To get to rebounds, important. Speed is a major, major key in every video game when it comes to gaming. Like, if we're talking, like, sports, I should say. Like, every single game, it's always going to be important. You could argue the only one, probably baseball. You could play baseball decent with, like, a slow team, But, I mean, if we're talking Madden, you're cooked with no speed. If we're talking 2K, you're cooked with no speed. It's awful if you have no speed or low speed in general. The faster team that has a higher three-pointer, generally, I would argue, would probably win. I would argue that most comp teams have elite speed, elite three-point shooting, and elite steal on the court at all times. And then specialists in terms of a lot of these top-tier attributes as well. Maybe not so much dunk, because like I said, specialists in this regard are a little bit less valuable. But point is, you could definitely see a lot of these top attributes be extremely important on really comp teams. So anyway, that's all for video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to notice, all good stuff. Like always, try to 1,000 likes. And if you made it to the end of the video and you want to show your support that you did, put your favorite attribute in the comments to show your support that you made it all the way to the end. So yeah, it could be threes, speed, steal, board, dunk, whatever the heck you see on this list that you want to drop in the comments. Just let me know. Anyway, last thing to kind of hit on. I know this video is running really long, so I don't want to keep yapping at the end here, but just want to let you guys know I did obviously drop my daily upload streak and stream streak. It lasted 3 months. We have gone 90 days and probably 120 uploads because I was going really hard at the beginning, doing like 7 uploads a day, 6 uploads a day, then into like doubles for like 10 more days, something like that. It's been a lot of uploads, a lot of streams, a lot more than I've normally streamed for that matter too. And if you guys happen to want to check those out, I'll be on YouTube and Twitch probably a good bit as well. We'll be in some comp pro-am leagues pretty soon, finally stepping into those waters rather than just playing proving grounds or ranked pro-am or anything like that. So we'll definitely be getting into that type of content a little bit more. Expect a little bit more serious hoops, like we'll probably be losing a little bit more than we have. I mean, we've been winning at like a 97, 98% rate. It's not going to happen in like, these comp leagues. It's probably going to deviate a little bit more to the mean of like 85%, something like that. But hey, I'm down. I'm looking forward to doing streams like that. I'm just saying expect a little bit more like learning the game all over again from me and my team. Anyway, point is, drop the daily upload streak. I'm not sure exactly what my style is going to be moving forward. It's something that I usually hold myself accountable to. So to drop that is a little bit of like a dangerous place for me to be because I usually do just have that holding me accountable and kind of like keeping me responsible, if you know what I'm saying. A lot of times in the past when I've dropped that daily upload streak, I just go ghost entirely. I'm going to try my best not to do that this time. I like the game enough to where I'm not going to do that like I did last year. Last year I just simply did not like the game at all. This one's good. I think it's definitely a solid game, like a 7 out of 10. I'm not going to call it the best 2K ever, but I definitely think it's fun and respectable and something that I actually want to hop on and play daily. Maybe not daily, but more like 5 days a week. Anyway, point is, that's a little bit of an update for y'all. Just wanted to leave that at the end of the video because that's where I'm at currently. I know for those watching maybe a month from now, you don't really even care about this, or if you're a viewer that doesn't, watch my videos consistently, this is the only one you clicked on, you also probably don't care. But I just wanted to drop this, and if it makes the video 5 minutes longer and makes people click on it less, oh well, it is what it is. And as y'all can see, probably the videos aren't performing the craziest either. I'm well aware that the interest in the community has waned on this game quite a bit, and it's okay, it is what it is. So anyway, that's all vid. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you made it to the real end of the video, put Laker in the comments. Search sports. You made it all the way through to the yap sesh at the end right here. But anyway, that's all. Other than that, take it easy, man. Peace.